All right, we are ready for our first TVT of the tournament so far. We'll broadcast anyways, between two incredible Koreans that we're very fortunate to have here with us. Please welcome to the stage Millennium ForGG. And his opponent from Team EG, PuMa. You ready? Have fun. Good luck. And casters, take it away.
Welcome back, guys, to the casting desk here for the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom Day number 2. Getting myself rearranged and all good to go as we are going to be jumping into some TVT action. Good Day night. I am looking forward to this one.
I'm pretty pumped because the first map is going to be Daybreak, which I think most people talk about for the ZVP matchup because it has some interesting choices of who does what there and etc. But for TVT, it's one of these maps where the location of the watchtowers become the key control points. If I can get the one closer to you, I really shut down your ability to move out and be aggressive. But I also leave myself super vulnerable to drops. Yeah. So there's this weird tension that the closer you're getting to breaking down your opponent, the more you're starting to have fear grow in the game.
No, you're entirely right. And also, not only that big kind of center with the two watchtowers. Yes.
Yeah.
But also, because there's just those 3 main attack paths in TVT, if you're able to seize the control of those intersections, it makes it extremely, extremely difficult to put on any aggression whatsoever unless you're going for that very super high mobility style of like medevac drop play and stuff like that. But that can also be shut down very, very easily by just missile turret rings, which sprout up a lot.
So let's talk a little bit about the styles of these two players that we're going to be seeing. PuMa, I would almost describe as if you took the, if you averaged every top Terran player together, out would pop PuMa. I mean, I would expect him to do kind of the standard maneuvers in the matchup, go for the early Marine medevac push, and then back up to just standard Marine tank medevac slow pushing kind of play.
And, I mean, coming over to ForGG here, ForGG seems to me in TVT as someone who is more than willing to stick with very aggressive tactics early on. Sit around, get those Banshees up, try and start doing that harassment if he wants to. And, I mean, he's well known not only in this matchup for that kind of thing, but in all matchups for that kind of really, really aggressive style very, very early on.
It looks like the game has started up. Will it be the hyper-aggression and timing push style of ForGG to take it, or will it be the more standard-esque mix of PuMa? Finding out right now on Daybreak. Spawning up in that top right corner as the red Terran. It will be Evil Genius's PuMa.
And spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner, we do have our blue Terran. Able to finish 3rd recently at Asus ROG over in jolly Finland. A very lovely place. I know all about Finland. Very cool. We do have Millennium's ForGG.
Both players doing the very nearby supply depot style play. And of course, ForGG, yes. Yeah, you know, I just want to take this opportunity to be insecure on air, if I may.
Okay.
It's always such a warm, fuzzy feeling when you call what the general style of a player is, and then he frickin' does it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as I'm sure many people watching know, and of course you and I know, we watch a lot of StarCraft to be able to make those statements.
Yeah.
To be able to not just say things like, well, we'll have to see. I mean, they're Terran players, so there's possibilities that all Terrans can do, and the fact that we're seeing ForGG do some sort of proxy barracks style. PuMa also doing sort of an interesting placement. PuMa's looks a little bit more Banshee-ish.
I want to try and go out on a limb, and if he's actually not going to make, you know, some kind of weird proxy marauder kind of style, it's probably going to be Hellion drops. The reason I say that is because this proxy style on Daybreak in TVT specifically became so popular to be able to start dropping in Hellions and then going for harassment from there on. And actually, there was a very famous game between Major and a Korean player that I can't specifically remember in a tournament recently, where both players proxied in this location up here and in the exact opposite location as well. So it was very, very interesting to watch and behold.
Wow, look at this. ForGG actually rallying back He's up here. He's building a supply depot. This is just generally good placement to have some sort of spotter. Will help you see if there's any sort of early drop play.
Yeah.
PuMa's build is making a little bit more sense. Again, it's very Banshee-like. You move the barracks, and you're going to give this tech lab over to a starport to get the fastest possible single Banshee. PuMa will almost certainly be following this up with some kind of basic expand, but there's the refinery now stepping up. Still pretty unclear what ForGG will be doing, but looks like a cloaked Banshee play.
Yeah, it does. After that second gas going down, very, very apparent there. But still, could quite easily change things up a little bit. The starport being thrown down here for PuMa to be able to get his own potential Banshee on the way. Doesn't have that second gas geyser yet, though, so probably not going to be any cloak from him here. And as such, hey, you know, both players opening pretty much very, very similar, just aside from that. Hey, wait a minute. The starport actually going up there. Nice. I like it.
ForGG will be shifting on over to their side, but this is actually kind of a difficult position for ForGG, and PuMa's shoes are going to be feeling quite happy. You'll almost always be building this follow-up Viking when you're identifying what your opponent's doing, but ForGG will likely be building Cloak first out of this. Yep, there's the Cloak going down, and then he'll be following up with a Banshee. So PuMa is going to be getting this Banshee out sooner. PuMa's pushing back. PuMa's in a better defensive position. ForGG has to do some sort of mega damage, and it looks like ForGG realizes that he's still building Hellions.
And the interesting thing about this is because of the positioning of the starport for ForGG, when he wants to eventually build, when he wants to build, when he wants to build that Viking, it's going to be really, really far away from his main. So it's actually going to have to traverse the map to be able to get back and defend against that Banshee. Really, really annoying for him here at this point.
PuMa looks like he is just gearing up to get some sort of fast stim. There's the Viking coming up, and look at this. It's a blind Viking coming out of PuMa. This is just what you do with this build order. ForGG is going to have to rely on a mule landing right now, but this is an excellent moment for PuMa. He's going to step into the main base, see what's up, and know that he doesn't even have to mule.
Oh, and retreating all of the SCVs away straight away. That Viking is actually, he's not even producing a Viking just yet. He just wants to retreat to the safety of his bunker. But right now, the mining being entirely shut down here of ForGG, and he does shark in there with that Banshee of his own.
And there it looks like ForGG is going to have to pull back. He's going to take some serious damage before he's able to throw down that cloak, but PuMa is keeping a tight tail on it. He actually sees that there's, PuMa manages to land the perfect timing, and now ForGG is in total shambles back in his main.
Oh, he really is. He even has to lift off his orbital commands just to keep it safe. He's going to long-distance mine, potentially, from that natural that he was doing just a little bit there. What an odd series of events we've just had going on for ForGG here. And he actually hasn't made too much use of this barracks in the middle with the reactor just yet.
And there it looks like second Banshee now swinging in. He cloaks, but there's going to be a scan here any second. Even looks like the missile turret is close to done, and it does finish. See you later, Banshee. Good
GG
game.
for game number 1. That was very interesting. Sean?
Well, we literally got to see exactly what we were talking about before the game.
Yeah.
The winner doing a very standard style of play.
Yep.
Fast Banshee, but not an aggressive Banshee, just defensively getting up a fast expansion.
Yeah, it would have been, again, when it comes to the aggression, we saw ForGG going for that with the cloak. That is the sign of a very aggressive Banshee. And especially where it was building and all the other interesting little things. I don't know what to make of that game.
I mean, certainly if you're in ForGG's shoes, you have to just say, that'll happen every once in a while.
Yeah.
PuMa's very much so the one barracks early expand type player. He doesn't really do anything too off the cuff, with the exception of perhaps a really, really safe standard fast Banshee play. But now, with ForGG down 0-1, I don't really know if there's a read that you adjust for, or whether if you're in ForGG's shoes, you just say, let's just hope that doesn't happen again.
I think that ForGG will probably end up going for a similar start. Not as interesting in placement as that one was, but I could quite easily see him going for Banshees once again. But PuMa, as you rightly pointed out, and as we just saw in game number 1, he is willing to open Banshees himself and willing to get that star power pretty quickly in order to be able to get that defensive Viking out if he wants to. In fact, there was a time where there were some Terrans that just weren't scouting at all. They didn't really care what their opponent was doing, just instantly going up to that starport and just, you know, making a bunker at the front, making the Viking to just straight off the bat to be able to zone out any kind of aggression that was coming from that kind of play.
And I do like that any play that involves the faster units, the Viking Hellion emphasis especially is really sexy when players pull it off well. Yeah. But, you know, coming back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, I don't actually have a lot of experience in the shoes that ForGG's sitting. You know, in a best of X, in general, you reserve game number 1 or game number 2 if it's a best of 5 for some sort of cheese. So that way you can make sure your opponent's not getting too greedy, is at least feeling a little bit nervous or something like that. But ForGG's kind of like a build preparation guy. He really enjoys having something special planned for each map, like we saw on Daybreak, where he has the high up starport at the top of the map to do that damage. But this is where my experience just can't really play in. If you are one of these crazy build preparation players as ForGG is, how do you adjust for game number 2? How do you play? Do you just say, well, that happens, I'll go ahead and do the same weird, crazy build I had planned in game number 2, or do you adjust back? I mean, I don't know. In your experience watching players, how do you feel that adjustment should occur, if any?
It's really quite difficult. I have to, you know, echo the sentiments you've just made. It's for a player like ForGG who can be so aggressive and just loves to be aggressive constantly, go, 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 let's kill, kill, kill right now. I still think he's just going to go Banshee. I really do. From seeing ForGG play so many games, I watched his stream avidly for a long time. And then suddenly realized,
stream, by the way.
And then suddenly realized that a lot of the games were just so hyper aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, he is probably the most aggressive Terran player you'll see. I do love fast Banshee with Cloak as a general style, but if he is going to go for that, please build it in your main. Please play a little bit more safe. In the bottom right, currently up 1-0 after literally doing a kind of by-the-book defense and a very fortunate series of events that let him get a quick win. Up 1-0, it's EG's PuMa.
And up to the top left-hand corner, we do have our Red Terran, currently 1 game down here after that little shenaniganry on Daybreak. It goes by the name of Millennium's ForGG.
ForGG has really developed quite the foreign fan base. It was really fun in StarCraft 1, seeing him have non-stop crazy timing attacks, these insanely long mid-games. I mean, I would actually say that the standard characteristic in StarCraft 2 is the shortened mid-game, with people kind of going, you know what, well, let's just not attack each other. I'm just gonna take a fast third and let's roll with it. I'm gonna tech to Ghosts in TVP pretty quickly, and you're gonna go 3-base Colossus upgrades. Let's just create a truce. However, we're seeing out of ForGG, literally, he's so aggressive, and it's so difficult for the opponents to get up those Colossus upgrades or get up those 3-4 bases. But these mid-games are lasting 10, 15 minutes where it's just nothing but Marine medevac. And again, ForGG is going to be going gas first.
Oh, you're right. And again, especially in the mirror matchups, you have to be so careful about transitioning from each phase of the game, from the early to the mid to the late. And one great example of having that, you know, in here in TVT, where you end up just constantly in mid-game for a long time, for example, in PvP, transitioning from early game to mid-game is very tenuous and very stressful. So these kind of standards that are coming out in all these matchups, and as you rightly pointed out, it's mid-game all the way in TVT at the moment.
PuMa now just taking his orbital command, stepping forward, and there's a number of builds that I like quite a bit with gas first. Most basic one is the no early second gas play, where you just follow up with a very swift Banshee, a very swift expand, exactly what we saw PuMa do in game number 1. But knowing ForGG, if you do want to go for that extra gas timing, you go for the supply depot first, then construct this second Vespene Geyser, and just drill up hard with a huge amount of cloaking, early Hellion pressure, etc. It does look like with ForGG throwing down this tech lab, he doesn't want to get this early second gas.
And meanwhile, back in the base over of PuMa, we have the factory in a little bit of an interesting position to be built, so it's looking like he wants to take to the skies here, be it with probably Banshees, now that I'm seeing that second gas geyser being completely saturated there.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Oh, give me the blue flame, baby. Oh, yes.
Okay, so does he bash down the front and try and just break from there, or does he go for, you know, like a medevac and try and kind of wiggle his way in from there as well?
This is definitely a break the front style.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hellions in the back don't really need the Blue Flame Hellion to do, they don't need the Blue Flame to do all that bonus damage. I mean, unless you're playing in MLG early 2011.
Yes.
But with this expand going up, ForGG is going to be making himself a good chunk of Hellions, moving up to do a lot of damage. He's trying to punish exactly the build that PuMa's doing. PuMa is going for a fast Banshee with Cloak, and he's going to be relying on Marine Hellion to do some sort of defense at the start. But with Blue Flame Hellions, he's going to be crushing it down. ForGG is delaying the starport. He is going to be forced to go Viking as a follow-up, and I freaking love this play. Vikings and Hellions, the most mobile early units, can easily gobble up the entire space on the map. Could even quite get a fast third command center.
Yep, you're fully right on that kind of analytical there. Just because of all those units being light, these Blue Flame Hellions are going to be able to do massive amounts of damage to them. It does depend to a certain degree on the positioning of the units when he goes up a ramp. So he needs to be able to, you know, wiggle those Hellions around a little bit. And also, importantly, he needs to make sure he doesn't reveal Blue Flame Hellions too early. Otherwise, you know, then walls end up going up. But for now, doesn't really see too much. But he does see the tech lab on the... No, maybe that's not too much of an indication at this point.
Well, I mean, he scanned, saw this mix, but I don't think you're going to be looking for that long.
Yeah.
As PuMa. A little bit close to the end of that, he saw the... I mean, we saw the Hellion pop out, but...
Yeah.
Does PuMa know this? Back in the main base of PuMa, it looks like we haven't really seen anything quite yet.
A Raven!
A Raven popping out right now. What a smooth, slick little play. He's going to go ahead and save up this energy because there is the possibility of a Banshee coming out. Cloak about the earliest it can finish is 7:15, but 7:30 generally tends to be the more comfortable benchmark. So everything for ForGG is coming out right on time. This is a huge space control play from ForGG.
I just love the Raven incorporation. If he, for example, was able to shut down the Banshee with Cloak with, you know, Raven Viking, and then uses the Raven in a frontal assault with this, then he can actually use the auto turret to change the, you know, initial targeting of those units.
Oh no! Oh, PuMa is just going to die so quickly. He runs up the front. These get roasted immediately, and all these Marines going, wait a minute, pull back. Banshees from PuMa now starting to advance along this left side.
The Marines getting toasted completely here by ForGG. And right now, how many units does PuMa have to be able to deal with this? 2 Marines, 1 Banshee, which is still up on the top of the map, isn't it? Or what?
Banshee got picked off in the main, actually, while ForGG was roasting the front. A super clean play from ForGG, roasting everything. A single Banshee's going to try to step up, but that Barracks is going to spot it in no time. And here it comes. Oh my God, will there even be time to watch them get lined up? Oh, all the SCVs, ForGG's aggressive play. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is so bad for PuMa. This is an unrecoverable position. ForGG with the smooth play. In the units lost tab, he has all his workers killed off. The GG PuMa pops up.
That must have just been... There was that like 5-6 second period there where all the Marines were dead, and there was just 6 Blue Flame Hellions looking across the distance at a juicy 30 SCVs, thinking, this is gonna be pretty fun, actually.
This is kind of a surprisingly fast Terran versus Terran as of now. I mean, if the series ends up finishing early on, we'll do our best to try to hop in one of the existing series that's ongoing. But I mean, even ignoring the rest of the games here, that's been pretty much the way that ForGG's games look on his stream, where he ends up with a lot of really clean, quick wins, a lot of really stupid, goofy losses, and we've seen one of each thus far.
Yeah, and I mean, in comparison, this series, in comparison to almost the entirety of day number 1, I mean, day number 1 was just macro after macro after macro, constant, really long series here. But again, some of ForGG series yesterday were showing, you know, that tenacious aggression that he does have, but then kind of going into a little bit of longer steps. Just here, going up against PuMa, he's either, as you rightly pointed out, finding those holes, finding those weaknesses, taking his opponent by surprise, or, and then it looks like genius, he looks like, well, you know, I just rolled my opponent, or it does look goofy, as you said, and it looks just silly.
You know, it's almost funny in terms of commentating this series. You have to comment from the point of view of ForGG, because PuMa's going to be playing pretty straightforward. ForGG's the one who's doing the craziness. He's the one who's doing this super... I mean, honestly, if you think about this Blue Flame Hellion straight into Viking Raven, there's really not that much that this build will struggle with. Maybe if the opponent early expands and goes for just bunkers and marines, great, you can't break the front, but you still have total control over the map. And this is the style of play that I get so excited to see in this matchup.
Yeah, it is very, very cool. And, you know, it creates for, you know, very, very high tension early on games. Yeah. So it's just hiding these little bits of tech. You know that your opponent, he has Blue Flame, but he doesn't for the longest time. It can always do massive amounts of damage if it's able to find that one small weakness in your opponent's armor. But regardless, we're going to be jumping into game number 3.
Up in the top right corner, had a clean win in game number 1, a clean loss in game number 2. He has one more chance to try to pull it off. It's EG's PuMa.
And down to the bottom left-hand corner here, spawning on Cloud Kingdom as our Red Terran. He goes by the name of Millennium's ForGG.
That was such a fast series. I mean...
Yeah, maybe it was.
Hardly even time to process how adjustments should be made. And, you know, we were actually talking a lot about that idea of if you have some crazy builds planned and you have a stupid loss in game 1 of a series, do you pull back to normal play? Do you trust in your preparation and expect it to be able to succeed in the following games? I really like the fact that ForGG did a kind of a weird play, but a really stable one in game 2. Yeah,
I think that we're not really going to see any kind of deviation, actually. I think, there we go, there's gas first, straight off. ForGG, he likes this aggressive style. You know, why not go for that? Why not be able to bring that in to the play? And if it's worked for you once, well, then again, he's got a 50-50. Wait a minute.
Oh, PuMa is doing a little bit of craziness of his own. He's going to need to throw down that very swift refinery, be able to get himself up pretty fast Marauder push. I love fast Marauder pushes in this matchup. In the fast Marauder push, you have to follow up with a factory as PuMa, and then you have to follow that up with a starport. So your follow-up is pretty clear, but that doesn't make it weak as all. We'll see PuMa opening up. I mean, he could open up Reaper, but will still much more often be the Marauder straight into Banshee play. Such a fun style to watch. What a cool TVT we're watching, Lars.
Yeah, too true, man. It's Marauder's just going up against the initial units that Terran has out. What does Terran go for? They go for, you know, 1 or 2 Marines. They go for, you know, potential Hellions in the case of ForGG, neither of which really has too good a time in low numbers against Marauders. Marauders big, bulky, they're dealing damage, you know, quite slowly against both units, but because they're so bulky, because they've got so much HP, they don't die too quickly to, you know, Marines nibbling away at their toes.
Yeah, I mean, the fact with that concussive shell, you can get the shot off on the Marine and back up in time to where the faster fire rate of the Marine doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So early Marauder, no, oh man, PuMa is just giggling to himself. He sees that. He would have loved to see that early tech lab. He does lose the SCV, but PuMa must wait for this concussive shell to be done. Otherwise, he sacrifices the edge that he gains from these.
Yep.
We're seeing the wall off from PuMa. No gas guys are quite yet, but again, following it up with Factory and then Banshee is going to be PuMa's play.
Yep, and the third Marauder now queued up here to be able to continue with this Blue Flame Hellion.
Again.
And the problem with this is, you know, with Blue Flame there, this is in essence wasting minerals right now, because despite, even if it does end up finishing, it's still not doing damage, bonus damage to Marauders. Oh, nice spot.
And there, it looks like he sees it. He immediately turns around to run. Will he respond by building tanks? He is. He builds the tanks. He cancels Marines in production right now. And look at this. PuMa calmly takes shots at the bunker. He's going to make sure that he can't get surrounded, and this is exactly what PuMa needs to avoid. We see the Hellion now stepping into action, and one of those Marauders gets surrounded very easily.
Yeah, meanwhile, the 2 Marauders trying to micro back as much as they can do, trying to focus down some of those harder hitting units there, as opposed to the SCVs as they try to wiggle their way around them. One more gets picked off here. That bunker does not finish up and will be forced to cancel. So ForGG, despite the position he was in, not too bad a defense at all.
Wow, ForGG, I mean, God, those Marauders were just a little bit too far to the right. He needed to avoid that. And look at this, going right back into the blue flame business.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you know your opponent must be following up with some sort of factory play. He can't be focusing on barracks play because, well, if you're going to go barracks and then lift it off and float it away to the opposite corner of the map, that's a pretty weak way to go barracks. There's a factory going down. Most commonly, you'll see the Banshee follow up. So what do you do as ForGG? You just expand, build your delayed starport in the exact way that we saw in the last game. And, I mean, I honestly think that ForGG is in magnificent condition to take a clean win.
Yeah, he could be indeed. And, I mean, if he goes for, you know, if he actually... Does he know that this wall is up just yet for PuMa? No, he does not. So he won't be able to just, you know, dart in there like he did in game number 2. So he may, you know, want to mix in a medevac with that if he wants to really get aggressive with this blue flame style. But, again, as you said, getting that command center up, he can just macro up to his heart's content here, and there's not a whole lot of aggression PuMa can put on after seeing that there is a starport on the way with this burning barracks, and he's going to land it.
Yeah, I mean, most generally, in PuMa's shoes, you're kind of going, ugh, you have to do this. You absolutely must. In PuMa's shoes, it might be wise to build another command center and just say, well, you know what, I'm behind, may as well follow up with it.
Yep.
And look at this, PuMa actually, did he get scanned here? I'm curious why. What was all the cancel hubbub about?
Oh, and he's going for blue flame as well here. So Hellion production beginning, along with that Viking, just in case his opponent is going for some kind of Banshee play. But as you rightly pointed out earlier, ForGG, you knew that the follow-up to that kind of play was Banshee play. ForGG undoubtedly knew that that was the kind of follow-up, so getting that Viking out very, very quickly and rapidly here.
I think that's a good assumption that ForGG knows a little bit better of TBT than I do.
Maybe, maybe.
I'm sure he's reading a lot more into what his opponent can be up to, because last game we saw that these Hellions were getting ready to be quite a bit more active, but ForGG still patiently playing back, still not really risking that much in mid-map.
For now, we have plenty of SCVs on the way. The Raven coming down once again. And as you rightly call, third command center, day 9, you are some kind of oracle.
It's almost as though I do this for a living.
It is. I'm so impressed. Anyway, now, what else do we have going on? Extra bunk Marines on the way from barracks here at the back. And actually, his initial barracks died off. So, ooh, a second factory. Hello. Maybe some mech play transition.
Good old Mechalicious coming out of PuMa. Don't dislike this play at all. There's sort of the assumption on PuMa's part, I must have a gas lead because I went gas first. PuMa, fortunately, does have a little bit of a resource lead at this point in time. He has a few more workers, just a little bit more. But I'm still worried for this expansion attempt from PuMa. Fortunately, he's going to see these Blue Flame Hellions moving in. He better lift. He better frickin' lift. He better lift that up. He just salvaged the bunker.
Oh, that was way too close, didn't I? I almost had a panic attack. As for now, PuMa does actually have those Hellions on the field. We need to keep those safe, though. 3 Hellions against 7 Hellions, never the best of engagements there if PuMa was to end up engaging there. And for now, just so many Hellions going to be in production here for PuMa.
ForGG now backing up and just doing his Viking Raven, still adding on Vikings. I think that's the essential play for ForGG in this circumstance. I mean, in ForGG's shoes, you feel like you have the advantage. Most importantly, you have the advantage on the map. You can move your Hellions farther forward, which means you can siege your tanks up farther forward to your opponents. Yeah. The only way to exploit that edge is to have the lead in Vikings then, so that way you can continue to outrange your opponent's tanks, even if they have more.
I am so impressed that we're going to see mech versus mech. If this game goes long, then ForGG is going to be playing one of the first macro games that I have seen him play for quite a while, actually.
Ooh. Could have been very dicey. Just 2 more Hellions would have been enough to break the front.
And for now, PuMa just establishing himself at his natural income tab right now. Just show not really too much of a disparity. The mule timings were just a little bit off there between both of the players. 39 workers to 39 workers, almost identical, heading up to that 42 now. And with the weapons upgrades already starting here for PuMa on that 1 armory, if this gets a little bit, if this gets out of hand for PuMa in terms of these upgrades, it can get a bit dicey for ForGG, but he has taken that supply advantage for now.
Because hindsight's really a fun thing to rely on. Yeah. Oh, nice engagement here for PuMa, actually getting the chance to pick off some of these Hellions. Doesn't want to risk going up the ramp and lining himself up.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I like this decision from PuMa to go for this mech after he saw that his opponent was also going for this Hellion-based play. because there's really no way to break down a pretty simple wall off if there's anything significant on the other side. PuMa clearly had the time, but right now the biggest issue is the food. ForGG is leading by a long shot.
PuMa has been spotted down in the southern position here with the Hellions, and there's so many Hellions there for ForGG. He's going to be able to get a very nice few volleys off here against some of those Hellions, killing off around 3 or 4 of them there. And now, I mean, right now it's 19 Hellions to 8, but Siege Tech has finished up for PuMa, and he's adding on those Thors. So he's got a nice bulky defense here, but he can't really move out and control any of the map whilst ForGG has this presence.
I mean, even at times like this, you can do weird things where you construct buildings like barracks and places to re-wall off. ForGG, though, has complete and total map control. This is why ForGG was flooding with these Hellions. As he's rebolstering with these tanks, he can move as far forward on the map as he wants. PuMa has to stay holed up back by his own base.
Yep, and for now, this third base is almost going to certainly have to lift off here and fly back to the safety of the main, as those siege tanks are going to establish themselves really, really nice position in this location. And it's even under fire here. He needs to lift up, and
the Vikings! The Vikings are going to show up. Oh, he's going to lose his third command center for absolutely nothing.
Oh, dear me. That is brutal there for PuMa right now, as the siege tanks get a nice position, but there's a few siege tanks from PuMa actually pushing up here. Hellions going to try and poke forwards to try and soak up a little bit of damage, whilst maybe he tries to re-establish himself a little bit of position fire down on this location. But look how much control ForGG now has over this location, and from here he might be able to secure his own third.
Just obliterating this front line. Oh, look at this auto turrets in the main base trying to pick off a single tank, and it looks like they're actually going to be successful. Oh, he takes it down with a few seconds to spare. PuMa can't really afford to build any Vikings at all. He's going to have to rely on Thors to be able to repel these Vikings. And again, the only way to get an advantage over a tank versus tank battle is by having these Vikings. Yeah, it was hilarious, man. He just lifted that up, and see you later factory, and it might be see you later starport. By the same token, he will...
He's repairing. Yeah, he saves it. Sorry, I don't know why that tickled me so bad. Just... I'll lift it up, I'll save it. Yeah. That's okay. So for now, he will move forwards here. He has he's just going to push straight forwards. He has so many Hellions to soak up, so a lot of damage here. And even landing the Vikings, ripping apart the tanks and Thors in that location, taking a lot of damage from the high ground, but he sieges up to be able to demolish those tanks as well.
The most aggressive mech we're seeing out of ForGG. He's almost playing it like it's Marine Marauder, just blasting down the front doors.
I mean, if anyone was going to play mech like this, it is ForGG. He is such an aggressive little tenacious Terran, and he is going to start moving up closer and closer to this second. But look at this PuMa actually taking a base up to the top left-hand corner whilst all this is going on. And I actually think that's a pretty good move considering the position he's in, but he's still in a lot of trouble right now.
PuMa's going to have to pull some sort of positional miracle. He's about to lose a key refinery, and now ForGG does have an extreme positional edge. But look again at the big glaring weakness for ForGG. No third base. He is just drilling as best he can on 2. This is an atrocious position to be in as PuMa, but it's not an unwinnable position to be in.
Only now just starting that third base a little bit later than we would have expected here, as ForGG just establishing himself a great, great location, slowly inching his way forwards as he still always has that air-dominant advantage. He does drop the scan there to be able to poke away at the tanks, but there's so many tanks here for ForGG that it's going to be hard for PuMa to really break this anytime soon.
PuMa looks like he's going to try to scoot his way forward. Oh, wonderful move. Here comes the scan from PuMa. Where's the scan from PuMa? There, he finally manages to get the shot off and pick off one of those single tanks. PuMa's still trying to make sure he keeps his Thor alive, but here is the one saving grace. PuMa actually has more expansions than ForGG.
Yep, and we even have a sensor tower going down right now to know exactly when his opponent is gonna move out from this location here and know exactly when they're able to unsiege, for example, but that's not gonna happen anytime soon. ForGG is very, very content sticking around here. He knows that his air dominant position is not really gonna be rivaled anytime soon because of how many Vikings he had out so early against PuMa. So his opponent is always gonna have to drop scans if he wants to make anything happen, but that could be very interesting.
Oh, this is a very nice little play by PuMa. He's actually exploiting the fact that everything's at the front line, trying to do some sort of blue flame Hellion and move around attacks. He's just to make sure not to guide ForGG over to his own expansion.
That wouldn't be the best idea. As for now, though, I mean, how many Hellions do we actually have out? We still have 21 to 21, so not really too much of an advantage of that in terms of soaking up damage. But again, these Hellions at the front gonna die off to these siege tanks, and ForGG, he's not gonna give up this position for a long time.
Oh, PuMa. Still not giving up. There's the Blue Flame Hellion drop down at the bottom side. ForGG is about to mine out in his main base. He actually just transferred all those workers. Oh my God. Oh my God. The worst possible timing for ForGG. An incredible win right there for PuMa. Oh my God. If PuMa pulls this win off, it will all be credit to those little pack of Hellions that just ripped down all those workers. It is now 31 workers for ForGG on the map.
Too true. That was a very nice victory indeed. PuMa going to be able to even save 2 of those Hellions right now, and ForGG coming back to the front lines here with the entirety of his Vikings. But how does PuMa get out of the situation that he finds himself in? I suppose, again, that third base up to the top left-hand corner, if he's able to get the saturation there that he needs, then that could be a very nice way of doing so. And actually a really nice tank positioning here to be able to shell away at some of these siege tanks on the low ground. So he's slowly whittling down ForGG at this location. But again, it's still really difficult to break.
It's quite funny because this is, again, what we were talking about beforehand, that ForGG has these extremely long mid games. I mean, right now, 1-0 is the highest upgrade for either player. Just tons of tanks, very careful low base versus low base play. ForGG just trying to pick off buildings, find any little edge he can. And again, the starport, oh my God, did PuMa actually get the air lead? No, 18 Vikings out right now for ForGG.
Unless he takes some volleys from those Thors, he might end up eking out that air lead in just a little bit here. But again, he would have to take quite a few volleys. But nice little poke in there from ForGG, able to snipe out one of those Vikings. And meanwhile, he's just SCVing up his third location as well. He's still behind on the SCV count though, 41 right now to the 57. PuMa not letting up too much in that production of SCVs until just now, just producing at that third location. And not at the other 2 to be able to transfer over eventually if he's able to bust this. But look, here goes PuMa.
Oh, PuMa now stepping forward. Oh no, incredible blunder from PuMa trying to step into this tremendous line of tanks. I don't know what PuMa scanned to make him think that he could get away with that. But now it looks like PuMa is going for the only edge he has been trying desperately for all game long, the air edge, trying to get a lead in Vikings. But ForGG, I think, just got the break that he so desperately needed.
Right now it is 16 tanks to no tanks, which is a bit of a bad position for PuMa to be in. How many Vikings do we have out right now as well? 10 to the 8. They're not all fully here in the front location for ForGG just yet, though. So he's going to maybe lose 1 or 2 more than he should do in this engagement. But we actually have the cloak with Banshees on the way for PuMa. And I really like that decision to be able to maybe snipe out 1 or 2 of these tanks, even force scans eventually, if that does come along, if he's able to re-establish air dominance at the front.
And now with all those Hellions cleaned up about the map, ForGG is starting to realize he doesn't need to leave all those units back home for defense. He can bring everything to the front line in this small series of air exchanges. We're seeing PuMa about to lose all his workers at his front. Huge shots going down. ForGG has now killed 47 workers. All the tanks literally just walking their way up, and ForGG, after an absolutely insane back and forth game, is finally breaking the natural of PuMa.
It really does show that, I mean, despite ForGG really favoring that very aggressive style early game, he's still able to go into a mid-game and get as aggressive, but with phenomenal macro behind it. So ForGG showing a really phenomenal game here. The natural under siege from this single siege tank really does seal a very brutal deal here for PuMa, and with those Hellions moving forward, it's looking very desperate for PuMa.
PuMa now has pretty much no answer. He's going to have to reveal the Banshee, but a single scan is going to just annihilate that. ForGG spots it and will be able to pick it off with a quick 3 volleys. No, it actually escapes the vision range. And now in the orbital command, lift pulling back. If you're in ForGG's shoes, you're wondering, where is this money coming from? There's no doubt going to be a little bit of a suspicious scout coming up from ForGG, if he even needs to. He has now taken down the natural expansion, and ForGG, wow, what a game. I actually thought PuMa was about to pull it back.
Yep, he looked as if he was going to be able to, especially if that third had gone unchecked for much longer. Would have been able to establish himself some nice economy with that, again, as you rightly pointed out, very, very important Hellion poke in with that drop. But again, the unit counts here, 15 siege tanks to 5, 10 Vikings to 0. So massive, massive advantages for ForGG here. He's going to shell up this infrastructure, and as such, no more production going to be going down for PuMa anytime soon.
Wow, 62 workers killed off by ForGG in that exchange, and there's again the lift retreat for the factory, but with too many Vikings there, ForGG is in total control. The only gas ForGG devoted to any late game hints is the upgrade to get to 1-0, and GG. ForGG has brought the series 2-0, 2-1.
Yeah.
And he is now 2-0 in the groups.
ForGG looking pretty good in that last game, gotta say. Really nice decision making. I really do love the incorporation of that macro mech style going into the mid game there by ForGG. And hey, he deserves the win in that series. He really does.
I mean, PuMa and ForGG were both 1-0 in their group.
Yeah.
Before that match, ForGG just winning that game by inches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually kind of amazing the way that ForGG was up against the double Marauder play, held it off comfortably, then followed it up by a really, really, really clean, contained ForGG. It was looking great, and PuMa just snuck in that expansion. Everything was looking fine and dandy. But gosh, it was that move-out attempt by PuMa that helped, or that caused him to lose those chances.
It really was. It really was. So, ladies and gentlemen, PuMa wearing his headset in a very interesting fashion here, as we shall send it over to Artosis and Tasteless, who have a few words to say to us.